The mom and dad left the house, leaving their 3 kids at home, specifically at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Without any warning, 2 armed men broke into the house, and these children found themselves staring at them. The boys grabbed the armed men. Their voices rose as they screamed for help. Because of her fear, their little sister went to her room and locked the door. She was truly scared. She hid under her bed because of what was happening. She had terror and fear, not just for herself, but also for her brothers. She wondered if they were dead or alive. Would it be her turn next? Or would someone save her? Suddenly the girl remembered her cell phone in the stairs. She got out from under her bed and got it. She tried to call her mom and dad, but they didn't answer. They were busy at work and their phone was on silent. Now this girl started thinking about solutions. She was afraid her parents will notice her late call. The armed gang heard her talking and figured out where she was. The girl cleverly opened her Facebook account, fearing that her parents might see her late call. She quickly wrote a post on her page. "Please help me. I'm Cruz Majuda's daughter and I'm trapped inside my room. 2 gunmen have broken into our house. They've captured my brothers and are now looking for me." After a few minutes, she noticed the doorknob trying to open very slowly. She closed her eyes out of extreme fear. These were the gunmen, and they had found her. "In this Facebook message I sent, this assistance is coming to my aid. The topic is broad and its details very fine. What I require from you, long life Salama, is for you to lend me your ears and eyes for a few moments, Father, with the utmost attention and focus. I will not take up too much of your time. We first say in the name of God, we begin with love. The events prior to this incident 2 years ago, specifically in 2019, in one of the poorer villages in the Philippines. The protagonists of our story, good people, were a highly respectable and educated Filipino family. Their name was the Maguda family, their financial status being above average in comparison to their village's inhabitants. This family was made up of the father, Cruz Maguda, and his wife, Lavila Maguda. Ever since their wedding day, they agreed upon and established a school to provide education to the poor parents and those suffering from financial hardships in the neighborhood they resided in, aiming to eradicate illiteracy among the Filipino people. They dreamt of fostering an educated generation. The Maguda family was at the apex of respect. They valued education to the utmost degree. They kept working, not for profit. Monetarily, they were content with their earnings or their monthly income from a very modest and small piece of land they used to cultivate. Wild pigs, may God honor you, chickens and pigeons, and they used to benefit from them and sell their production and suffice with them as a source of income and monthly income. This family consists of the eldest daughter, Gwen is 18 years old, and the son Louis is 16 years old. Okay, Des, you told us in the beginning that they are 3 kids. Where is the son or the daughter third? This question, guys, is the focus of our story today. But let's focus now on Gwen and Louis. Gwen and Louis loved something called charity because their mother and father were tall. They have never been engaged in charity. So these brothers agreed to grow up in their village. A donation team in the neighborhood for the poor family was supervising the families who have no support themselves or widows and orphans. So they allocate events and honoring parties and financial aid that they used to collect from the people of the neighborhood. The able, and of course this is a simple summary about one of the most beloved families in the Philippines one day. The days happened suitable for the mayor of the area, so the mayor came to Father Majuda and told him, "I am honored that you and your family, the generous, attends the party, my daughter's birthday." So here the Father Majuda told him, "Okay, I don't have a problem, and God willing we will be happy. We are very honored to attend this party." And finally the awaited day has come, and Majuda's family has attended and enjoyed the party. But it was Niji Gwen, the eldest girl, who caught everyone's attention. One of the girls at the party was naturally serving drinks and food, but her clothes were obviously very old, and her boots, and you wear them with a cracked dignity, and all her clothes are cracked. It was obvious that the girl was showing signs of exhaustion from her face, and she was younger than Gwen. Gwen is 18 years old. And this girl is younger than her. She is 16 or 15 years old. The girl was walking with plates and cups and tripped over a chef on the ground, and she broke the dishes while she was serving. Then the mayor's daughter from the audience came to this maid girl and pulled her to the kitchen and slapped her with her palm. This made us do sue. She shook her and said to her, "Do you see you are useless? Even when given the simplest task you do not succeed in anything? My soul is illiterate. Your straw and your furniture and leave." Gwen, Majuda's daughter, was at the party sitting with the girls. She was wondering who the maid girl was and whether the mayor's daughter hurt her or did something to her. Suddenly she noticed the maid girl holding a very simple bag in her clothes and wanting to leave the house. Gwen followed her outside the house and told her, "Could you please stop for a while?" The maid girl stopped and turned around surprised. Who was this calling me and wanted me to stop so they could talk to me, and found Gwen approaching her. Gwen said to her, "I am sorry for what happened to you," and wiped it on my face as a kind of Gwen entered, and the girl looked like this sadly. She said, "No, you don't have to originally. She is used to, this treatment is in every house I work in." So here Gwen felt that this working girl is ready, and she doesn't mind that she talks to her, so she told her that with a smile full of tranquility, "Look, honestly I empty, and I am curious to hear your story. So if you don't mind, I want to hear your story, why a young girl your age is working this exhausting job. I mean, when do you find the time that you go to school?" And the girl here smiled painfully. She said to Gwen, "Okay, originally I don't study." I was surprised. Gwen told her, "You help your family with work and house expenses." So the daughter told her, the family worker, a very big word originally. If I had family, I would not have been forced to humiliate myself and go to work. From house to house and beating and insults and cursing every day, and at least the most trivial reasons that might happen. Gwen envied here that she relieved the girl. And at the same time she was sad for her, they sat like this on the pavement, in the street in front of the mayor's house, so that Gwen gets to know this working girl more. And really started. This maid girl tells her story completely. So she told him, "I started my story when I was 8 years old. I was thrown completely unconscious in an unknown ship that docked on the beach, and there was a fisherman. Well, he spotted me next to this ship and took me home with him and started taking care of me until I woke up because I was unconscious." She says, "When I woke up, this sailor or fisherman started asking me, 'Who are you? Where are your family? What's your name? How old are you?' But I didn't know anything, and I don't remember that I have family in the first place. So this good man sat looking and asking about my family. So he posted my pictures everywhere in the area, but no one was able to recognize me or my family. So most likely I'm not from the area. And honestly, this hunter man was very kind, but his financial condition is bad. So he came to me and told me, 'Excuse me, my daughter, I have to hand you over to a side that takes care of you. And maybe your family, when they search for you, they find you in this place because it is an official place.' And he handed me over to the shelter, and I sat there, and my only hope was to find my real family, and they called me in the shelter after Janice, and now I am 17 years old. And day after day I dare to be humiliated by my work as a maid in the houses, and maybe I will find someone who knows my real family. In the end, I don't blame them. Maybe they got rid of me of their own will because of poverty." Of course, she said so because the poverty rates in the Philippines are so high that they are the most brought-in workers from abroad, and at very cheap prices, life for them is tough. So one resorts to emigrating or even running away. They can work as maids in any country to support their family. There is no other solution. Of course, the salaries in the Philippines are very low compared to the exaggerated prices due to corruption. A lot of families, when they reach a point where they can no longer find food, leave their children on the street and put them in a boat. This boat moves to another region, so if the child dies, it's more merciful for him than living in the possible poverty. And if he survives, God has written a new life for him, and he might find a better life according to their thinking. Obviously, in the end, this is contrary to the Islamic religion and humanity, because every shepherd is responsible for his flock. Anyway, let's get back to the story. Gwen was shocked by the sex story and empathized with her greatly. She hugged her and promised her that she would never leave her, and that she would consider her from that point as her older sister and part of her family. And in a short time, Gwen's family called her mobile searching for her because they were about to leave the party. Gwen insisted they wait for her. She said to them, "Okay, enough. Hello, where are you?" "We're leaving," he replied. "Okay, I'm coming right now, and we'll say goodbye." Sex, and asked her to give her the address of the shelter where she lives in order to visit her periodically. From here began a very strong friendship between Gwen and Sex. Of course, Gwen didn't believe the news. She talked to her brother Louis. She told him, "You see, in the mayor's party I ran into a working girl, and I had Kate and Kate and Kate and Kate," so he sympathized in his role greatly with her, and said to his sister, "Okay, listen, let us be ashamed of her and go to her and spend time with her, really." He went with her to the shelter and met Janice. Every day they go out with her and take her to the market and buy her clothes and dinner and have lunch and leave her mother, and then they return her to the shelter, and they sat like this until the soul started to return to her again, and they became Gwen and Louis teach her on TikTok and try to simplify her and make challenges with her and trends and clips and photography and trips and things when sex entered their hearts, and they loved her to the extent that they considered her their third sister. And the day came when he said, "There's Louis," to his sister Gwen. He said to her, "What do you think? Instead of giving Sex from the donations, what your opinion, we adopt her and she becomes one of our family." Of course, Gwen was happy with the idea. She said, "I don't have a problem, and sure, she will be happy when she hears the news. But first we have to convince my mother and father that she lives Sex with us, and we adopt her, and we want to surprise her with the news at her birthday party, which will be next week. Now we have a week to convince my mother and father." Certain with their company, this is the Sex that was in the shelter, and that their children are very attached to it, so they sat on the lunch pan without any introductions. They said their mother, their father, the sex of our friend, right or not. They said, we know it and we heard about it from you. They said, also how attached we are in it and we loved it very much. And we made it in a bigger house than his friend. They said, okay then. So they said, and their father, honestly, we both thought that we want to adopt Sex and take her from the shelter, and she will be our third sister and individual, new in this family. The mother and father are looking at each other with amazement. They don't know how to explain the sensitivity of this situation to their children. And after the silence of the place, the father said calmly and wisely, of course, we know that you sympathize with the sex and you love it very much, and we love it for sure who we love for it. But you, as you know our financial situation, oh God, enough for the four of us. This is not a source. Our only income is animals. God bless you who raised them. And our goal is to invest for you two and you have something after us but sex. In the end, she is considered an old girl, and she is 17 years old. So how can we adopt her in the first place when she is aware and knows that we are not her family? So the mother continued the words of the father. She told them, listen, children, maybe Sex, we close it and assign her a monthly allowance while she's in the shelter, and you are as you are. You go visit her and walk with her whenever you want to go visit her, we don't mind. And so he will not. You feel a big difference, and this is the best solution for all of us. Of course, they upset Gwen and Louis, and he was disappointed big from the words of their mother and father. So they said to their mother and father, you always raised us and encouraged us to do business charity, and that we sympathize with people and improve for them now, when the practical application came on the ground. You change your speech 180 degrees. What is the fuss? All of your principles are delete. And then this means in the end a girl. She is weak, and a child can be exploited while she works in the houses. Very bad, used with malicious ambitions. You meet criminals or you can meet gangs or anything that might eventually become a night girl. It is possible and possible and possible many things that do not come to mind. The father said, okay, Gwen, and Louis's very right words. But there is a point. You didn't think about the number of rooms of the house on. We are full. We don't have any room extra Sex. Louis jumped like this. He told him, never. I don't have a problem. If this problem is very simple, I give her my room, and I will move all my stuff and sleep in the living room. But you agreed, and God willing, we will arrange all something from the mother and father. They felt that their children were serious and enthusiastic. So they said, okay, we agree. It's God's order, as long as you're insisting on this issue. Okay, fine, we don't have a problem. They went to her shelter on her birthday and surprised her with this news. She became a member of the family, as if she was their daughter, exactly, a girl. She sat in her own room, which is basically Louis's room, and lived with the family. For the first time, she's treated as a child. She brings color to the house, and there's a spirit and happiness in it because of the new individual, the girl. She herself was very happy. No one shouts at her. Nothing is more important is that she wakes up early to make breakfast and doesn't clean the house or do anything. She sits with her new family at the breakfast table as if she was their daughter, exactly, and was registered in school to complete her education. Days passed, and the mother and father became the head of their children, Gwen and Louis's race. So when she made a mistake, they said, you see, listen, this is a mistake. Refine and do not repeat it. They used to discipline her as a form of education because she is like their children, as if she was their daughter, especially the mother and father, as we said at the beginning, are teachers. So they knew how to deal with children of all ages, until the days came that were agreed upon with the father. With the mother that they sell the production of their animals like eggs or young pigs. God bless you the wild that they have anything to sell from the production. So they sold all this production for $200 and put this amount is in their room on the table in an open way for everyone because basically there is no stranger. Ellen enters to them the day when the father and mother were at work. So she entered the sex of the room. She saw this tie of money, and without anyone seeing her or paying attention to her, she saw that the situation is good. In one right left, she took this money and put it inside her bag, and no one saw, or who. He knew he counted the first day, and it was something that was not even the father and the mother didn't notice that. The amount disappeared from above the table in their room when the awaited day came, and the father, his car broke down, and he is fixing it. So he said, okay, I only have to take the amount that was in the table in my room. It is true that it is a monthly amount, and it can make us live $200. And this is our living amount, but I deduct. From him to fix the car, the camel went to his house to take from this amount. He entered his room. He found any trace of money. Okay, maybe La Villa, which is the wife, needed the money and spent from it. He went. Why did he tell her, madam? I hope you need money and spend something from it? Essentially, I don't want to be a fanny, but I don't want to be a fan. Of the amount in the first place, the father was surprised that he went to gather the 3 children because no one came to them home in the first place. He told them, oh, kids, there is a sum that was on the table in our room. Maybe one of you needs it. And he forgot to tell me all of them said no, never, no one took the money and no one needed it. And originally, we didn't enter the room and we didn't see him in the first place. So he told them, no problem. Maybe I grew up and started to forget. Where did you put the amount? Okay, no problem. Help me search with me. We can find the amount here or here because I need it now necessary to fix the car. Really, they started looking where their father might have put money. And he forgot her. They sat looking and they had sex looking for $200. And what happened is that she helped sex rotate, and there was a place like that in a pile of bags. Gwen took the bag from the bags. Maybe the money will be flying under it, but a moment here, as soon as Gwen grabbed the bag, I heard the sound of coins rubbing against each other. When I grabbed the bag, you opened it and you find a lot of money, including equivalent to $200 in their currency. Of course, she comes out with a very large sum. So she called her family. They discovered that it is sex stolen. The money they expected. What was the reaction when he knew the matter in front of his eye bag? A sex bag? They untied it. They found the $200 in it, but in their currency. So what was the father's reaction? Stop the video here and write to me down in the comments. If you were in the father's place, what would be your reaction? The truth is, what are you going to do? The dad here was shocked, just like the rest who didn't expect that sex would do this, or even 0.5%, but they all came to her calmly. The dad, the first time he saw her like this, hugged her and patted her. He told her, I know that you are afraid, and that you are afraid that we may one day leave you and give up on you. But believe me, this thing will never happen because you have become a part of our family. It's impossible to think one day that we will kick you out or say goodbye, bye-bye. Our role with you is over permanently. Don't think about these thoughts. And if we think about getting rid of you, we were getting rid of Louis or Gwen. So don't be afraid at all. And Shelley, get this idea out of your head. I myself forgive you, my daughter. Then, of course, she started crying. Jans, her father, apologized to him, promising him that she would never behave like this again permanently. The family relationship returned stronger than the first, and his relationship is full of love and trust. Years passed until what came in 2021. Of course, after Corona, sex began, and for the first time she called her mother and father instead of Mr. and Mrs. McQuaid. She began to call them Mum and Dad. Of course, here is an indescribable joy and happiness that they reached with her to this extent that she is during her age. 1.5 years or 2 years old, Mum and Dad, the mother and father went to their summer school, so they left their 3 children at home. And after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, one of the father's colleagues at school saw a post on Facebook, and this post was a distress message saying, please help me, I am the daughter of Cruz Majwad, detained inside my room, and there are 2 armed men who broke into the house and caught my brothers and are looking for me. Of course, Mr. Majwad was having a class, so his friend entered the class and told him, listen, come quickly, I need you. It is mandatory you come out. As soon as he came out, he asked him, what's the problem? His friend replied, see this message. In fact, the father didn't believe the news. Even he didn't tell the mother. He didn't bang on the mother's door and tell her, listen what happened. He wanted to catch up with his children who were inside the house. He turned on the car and moved quickly. When he got home, he opened the door with 1,000 questions and wonders in his head. He wished that it was a prank from one of his kids. He entered the house and found a stick thrown in the hall, covered with blood. Inside the house, his manly virtue couldn't handle the scenes he was seeing. His son Louis and his daughter Gwen were drowning in their blood to the point that he can only recognize them by their clothes. The father started screaming. His daughter, he couldn't remember if she was alive or dead. At least one of the 3, please, carry him out. He started crawling, and when he reached the room, he opened a door. Her room was quiet, and she was holding her head in fear until her father came to hug her and cry. After a bit, once they calmed down, she told him that 2 armed men had entered the house. My brothers were in the living room, she said. As soon as I saw them, I ran downstairs, locked myself in, and heard my brothers screaming. She wrote this post on Facebook because she wanted people to help her, and she wanted anybody who reads this to know they were in trouble. Because if I called you, they might hear my voice, know where I am, and kill me. Indeed, the police did arrive after a while, followed by the mother who had entered a state of shock and fainted due to the horrific scene that unfolded before her eyes. The police, when they investigated the matter, they discovered that the girl, Gwen, had been stabbed in the face more than 21 times. All of them concentrated around her face, and her ear was cut off, meaning the killers intended to disfigure her, unlike Louis, who was stabbed 50 times in the chest. This was apart from the smashes and bruises in the head area with a club. The thing that surprised the police and investigators was that none of the devices in the house were touched or stolen. Not mobile phones, not laptops, not any electronic devices. In fact, the killer took nothing at all from these devices. The strange thing about the matter is that the murder weapons and crime tools were present on the ground when examined by the forensic scientist. The investigators were surprised that there were no fingerprints on them, which means that the killer was using gloves. The investigator here was aroused with a very simple doubt about who in the third girl, who is Gans. He invited the father and asked him to recount the incident in detail. The father unfolded all the rush that happened until he mentioned the Facebook message. Mohammed said, "Wait, can I see this post or this message?" When the investigator really saw the post, he was astounded by something strange. The post was error-free, and there were emojis. There were emojis. Imagine with me that you are far from danger, you're very likely in danger, someone is after you and could kill you, and you want to alert. Surely in large proportions you would write fast while trembling, and you can't write well. Essentially, you won't enlarge and lessen the font. You won't use emojis or emoticons. Exclamation points, question marks, you won't use anything. Your words will all be like this, might be overlapping each other. But the Facebook post had emojis and punctuation marks and not a single spelling mistake. The investigator here began to doubt her, but decided not to rush. Until it's 100% confirmed, news spread like wildfire, and everyone in the area knew about the peaceful family's demise and the people who loved them there. And after that, the crime became a public affair. Naturally, pressure was put on the police as soon as the case became public opinion, when they attached more importance to the issue and offered a financial reward to anyone who could provide them with even the simplest information about the murderer. After a few days, a tuk-tuk driver went to the police station and told the detective that he had a statement about the case and he wanted to testify. The investigator said, "Okay, go ahead and tell me what you know," said the tuk-tuk driver. "On the same day of the crime, a guy in his 20s asked me to take him to Mr. Majwad's house. He described this young guy's features to the police sketch artist, and they managed to get a sketch of this young man. Meanwhile, the police talked to the parents and gave them the green light to clean the house, seeing that they didn't require any more evidence from the house. The mother started to emerge from her shock and come to terms with the fact that it was all over. Her children were gone, and she began to clean her house. She entered one of the bedrooms, and when she was cleaning the room, she found a photo identity of a person she had never seen before in her life and nobody in the house. He knew him from before, so the mother complained and kept this ID in her pocket until the father came and spoke to the father about it. He was on this ID, and she hid the ID in the envelope. When he saw the ID, he didn't recognize the owner of the ID originally and afterwards. It came back in his memory when he embraced Janice when he came back after the crime, when he put his hand on her hair. He felt that her hair was wet, as if she had just recently taken a shower, or in a short period after the crime. The crime happened here, the mother and father's suspicions increased, and they decided to handle the subject very calmly and in a natural way. With sex, when the police got to real evidence, they gave this man's ID in his picture to the investigator. He compared it with the sketch of the criminal artist that looked exactly like the description of the tuk-tuk driver, of course, afterwards. They called the police on sex, and after pressure on her, finally she confessed and said, "Yes, I was involved in the murder. My brothers and the guy was my lover, and me and him had been planning for a long period of years that we went to kill. These two boys, and especially that I was afraid that the day would come and the family would kick me out, then I decided I would be their only daughter and get rid of their two children. The shock during the investigations, oh goodness," the police confirmed that Sex's real mother was still alive and in contact with her. And all of this was in order for her to beg and hang on to. People in order to help her, and after the psychiatric report came out, they confirmed that the motive for Gwen's particular murder was because of jealousy due to the excessive number of stabs in her face, and it was as if Sex's goal was to disfigure Gwen more than killing her. And the only day that she called Mr. and Mrs. Majid Mama and Papa. Her intention was that they would become her mother and father exclusively. Of course, there is an American movie that tells this story because of adoption problems. Its name is The Orphan, and in the end, glory be to God.